You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Bold and the Beautiful fans, we have got Thomas Forrester back in town and more determined than ever to keep his parents together. And that means trouble for Brooke Logan. But the question is, how bad will it be? It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about Thomas going after Brooke to stop her from interfering and whether she should be scared. But first, please hit that subscribe button if you aren't already following us. So, to be fair, the Logans are all conspiring against Taylor. That includes Donna Logan, Katie Logan, and Eric Forrester, who's an honorary Logan at this point. So if you think about it, doesn't Taylor deserve someone in her corner fighting for her as much as Donna and Katie and Eric are fighting for Brooke? If you think about it that way, then you see that there's a point to bringing Thomas back, especially with Steffi gone, and especially since Ridge continues to waffle in the middle between these two women, just ruining lives, everybody's lives. We have found out more since Thomas came back home to LA about what's going on in his personal life, and honestly, it's no wonder his first stop was to see his mom Taylor in her office at the hospital. He needed some comfort too. She and Thomas had a really nice little reunion moment. They caught up, and Taylor told Thomas that Brooke was interfering with her engagement to Ridge, but Thomas still doesn't realize to the full extent of how much Ridge is part of the problem, because he's the biggest part. Taylor doesn't realize that either, at least not yet. Brooke knows, Ridge knows, and the Logans know. So Thomas's next stop was to go over and see his dad at Forrester Creations. And Thomas was stunned to see Brooke in Ridge's arms. And Thomas wasn't happy about it, which makes sense because as far as he knows, his parents are happily engaged. And then he walks in on what looks like some cheating. And then Thomas directly asked his daddy Ridge if the wedding to Taylor is still on. And Thomas told Ridge, don't break Taylor's heart again because the whole family is counting on you. And what's whack about that is that Ridge basically reassured Thomas that things are fine and that he's not going to mess up things. It's already happened, And then we found out more about why Thomas is back in LA, because he was telling his dad why he really needs the closure or, togetherness of Ridge and Taylor getting married. And part of that is because Thomas's own engagement is off. He and Paris are done. Thomas said he and Paris broke up and that her family is trouble, all of them. And he's not wrong, especially since her mom, Paris Buckingham, pulled that horrible con on Liam and Bill Spencer. Plus, Thomas said he and Steffi watched Ridge hurt Taylor for years, which is absolutely true. They don't like that. They don't want it for their mom. So Thomas was telling Ridge that the whole reason he's back is to make sure Brooke doesn't get her hooks in Ridge and make him hurt Taylor again. And Thomas also said after the split from Paris, he just doesn't know what is his life now. What is his purpose? He tells Ridge that he's feeling untethered. He's got no relationship. He's not working on a fashion line. And his son, Douglas Forrester, is busy with his friends because he's at that age now. So unfortunately for Ridge, Thomas is hyper focused on Taylor's happiness. And Thomas told Ridge he'd better not trample on Taylor's heart again after she bounced back from the last crisis, which, as we all know, was the broken heart syndrome. And Ridge is worried, of course, because Thomas is very intent on making sure Ridge and Taylor get married and Brooke doesn't come between them. And after seeing Ridge in Brooke's clutches up at the office, Thomas went to confront Brooke. And again, from Thomas's angle, I do think what he is doing is justified because his parents are happily engaged as far as he knows. Ridge did not contradict that, and he saw them in what looked like a cheating situation. So yeah, he went in there. And as Katie sat looking shocked, Thomas told Brooke Ridge is marrying Taylor and Brooke better not try and come between them ever again. Katie was surprised. Brooke's jaw dropped and then she was glaring. And it definitely sounded like the guy we've seen from the past, dark Thomas. And again, though, think about his perspective. Think about what he's seeing. Brooke's seeing this through the lens of she and Ridge are basically reunited already because of what happened there, but that's not the reality for Thomas, for actually Ridge right now, who's waffling, and definitely not for Taylor. So the big question is, should Brooke be afraid of what her former stepson might do to keep Ridge with Taylor and keep their marriage on the track to happen? And can Brooke trust that Ridge won't waffle back to Taylor and ignore what happened with them in Italy? Yeah, I don't know if Brooke can trust him or not. So I could see Thomas plotting and scheming to make sure Brooke doesn't split his parents up. And then later, Ridge was telling Eric about Thomas pressing him to marry Taylor. And Eric said, don't let Thomas tell you what to do. And then it was huge irony because Eric was telling Ridge, don't let Thomas tell you what to do. Let me tell you what to do. You know, Ridge realized that and told his dad, it's the same thing you're doing. But Eric thinks it's okay when he does it because Eric thinks he knows what's best for Ridge. So now that Thomas is out here looking for a purpose, I think he's going to find it defending his mom from Brooke trying to take her man. But there is a red flag about Thomas's behavior that's already sketchy from the moment he returned to LA. When Taylor told Lee that Thomas is back and doing great now, they kind of touched on his past issues, and Taylor said she would hate for Thomas to have a setback. But if he does, Taylor will be there for him. So B&B might have been hinting and warning us that Thomas may lose the plot and go nuts if he finds out Ridge did indeed tell Brooke that he would dump Taylor and get back with her. I can absolutely see Thomas going after Brooke to make sure she's not a threat to Taylor's happiness with Ridge. And of course, I'm not suggesting Thomas will physically harm Brooke. I mean, that's not his pattern of behavior, like physically hurting her. Never say never, but it's not been his pattern of behavior. I think it's more likely Thomas does something to make Brooke look bad to Ridge. It wouldn't be the first time. Years ago, he let Ridge think he and Brooke slept together to discredit her. And more recently, Thomas, of course, framed Brooke for that CPS call that Thomas faked using Douglas's voice app. We all know Thomas can be ruthless, vindictive, and dark, and with Paris out of his life and Hope busy with 2 other guys, Thomas has got lots of energy to focus on making sure Brooke won't get in the way. So let's be clear. When it comes to Thomas, yes, Brooke should be very worried. Not just because Thomas might target her directly like he did in the past with the CPS call, but Brooke should also worry that Thomas could influence Ridge and push him to stick with Taylor. Now, I'm sure Brooke realizes that this is serious, but I don't know if she understands how serious it is for him. I can also picture Thomas conspiring with Steffi to protect their mom, especially after the whole heart syndrome crisis. Steffi's going to be furious when she finds out Ridge promised Brooke a future after he fished her out of the water, hot on the heels of, Ridge promised Steffi he'd never break Taylor's heart. So the big question is, what could Thomas do to get Brooke away from Ridge? What was interesting was when Thomas confronted Ridge, he didn't have the nerve to tell his son he planned to dump Taylor. So honestly, I think Thomas's best case is just to intensify the pressure on Ridge and pile up that guilt. But all of that reminds me of that old Bonnie Raitt song. Do you guys know, I can't make you love me? That line, I can't make you love me if you don't. If Ridge doesn't love Taylor the way he loves Brooke, nobody, not even Thomas, can make it happen. But I bet he's going to try.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.